Hello everybody, my name's Ray, and as per the name of the channel, I love to read, and here I bring to you my October wrap-up. So basically everything I read in October. Now it's a bit of a misleading month because I have done lots and lots of reading, but I haven't finished a lot of books this month. So although I've read lots of bits and bobs, in terms of actually finishing books, I only read 4 books, 5 if you're counting the graphic novel that I squeezed in on the very last day. It's absolute chaos around here. I'm hoping that by this time next month I'll have a whole new setup, we'll have some nice shelves behind me, it'll look like a proper Booktube channel. But for now, I'm just going to talk you through what I read and whether it was any good and tell you kind of what I'm midway through at the moment, because I've got about 8 books on the go and it's getting a little bit overwhelming, let's say. But I don't know whether you'd call it a reading slump, because I am actually reading, but I'm finding myself kind of losing attention very quickly and kind of wanting to start new things, and I've got a big stack and I'm kind of looking longingly at my TBR. So maybe, and the books I'm reading are good, so I don't know. I just feel like I've been a little bit distracted this month. But there are a few things that I did read. Some of you who follow me on Instagram or Litsy might know I went to the lovely Gladstone's Library earlier on in the month for a reading retreat. It's a wonderful place to relax and to read and to drink hot beverages and sit in the autumnal, enjoy the autumn with some fantastic books, and I had some great company there. I read a number of different books while I was there, some of which I still haven't finished. What a location to do some reading. So first of all, we have these two. Now, I found these covers gave me a similar vibe, and also the titles: House Across the Lake, Black Lake Manor. We've got 2 mystery thrillers with property by a lake in the title. So I thought it would be a brilliant, it's October, it's autumn, thriller weather. I thought it would be a great time to read these, and so I read this one first, then this one, and I thought it would be quite fun to do a little book battle between the 2 of them. Which one did I like best? Now, Riley Sager is an author that I've wanted to try for a while. Everybody says he's brilliant when it comes to mysteries and thrillers, so I had high hopes for this one. Secluded house, Rear Window vibes in terms of peeking into what's going on across the lake in one's neighbourhood. Lots of anticipation for this one. This one, on the other hand, is an author I had never come across before, Guy Morpus, and it says a locked room, a brutal murder, and a killer who can unwind time. So from that we're getting hybrid mystery. We've got some sci-fi elements there, and I normally love a good hybrid genre blending mystery. Is it going to be is it going to reach the heights of Stuart Turton, Evelyn Hardcastle, Groundhog Day murder mystery type situation? Who knows? So again, I had high hopes for this one as well, and I started reading them both when I was at Gladstone's, this one then this one. First thing I will say is that both of these authors cannot write convincing female characters. Because they're mystery thrillers, it didn't spoil my enjoyment too much, but to me it was glaringly obvious that these were women written by men. And I went online and I've noticed that a few other readers had that impression as well. But the characterisation wasn't so bad that it spoiled my enjoyment of the plot. They didn't quite ring true as characters, and I can't even exactly kind of put my finger on exactly why that is. The House Across the Lake, the basic setup here is you've got a lady who has been forced to basically go and recuperate at their kind of family home following the death of her husband. She very much doesn't want to be there, is drinking lots and lots of alcohol to kind of cope with the situation, and she starts to become a little bit fixated on what's going on across the lake in the big glass house where another minor celebrity is living their life, and that's the setup. Black Lake Manor is a bit different. Starts off in the 1800s for some reason, gives you a bit of background there. It's about a woman who attends a party at her ex-fiance's house. He is a tech giant, massive Steve Jobs fan, has modelled himself on him, has billions and billions of pounds, but is not particularly doing much good for the environment. He's been basically announcing one of his latest projects, and it all ends up leading to murder and mayhem. And as it says, I don't want to give too much away, but as it says on the cover, there is sci-fi elements, there is time travel, or at least kind of unwinding time. And yeah, so that's your setup. I found the house across the lake was a little bit boring at times. It did sometimes go slow. Definitely gave me Girl on the Train vibes, that kind of looking out the window at what your neighbours are doing, domestic noir thriller. Yeah, I found that at times it did go a little bit slow for me, that I wasn't always completely hooked. Black Lake Manor, on the other hand, completely threw me in because I had absolutely no idea what was going on, and I wanted to know what was going on. It was punchy, there was lots of kind of early announcements, possibly a little bit slow in the middle, but it picked up again at the end. So pacing wise, this one wins out. One good thing I will say about this one is that I had absolutely, if you'd given me a million guesses at where this was going, I wouldn't have got there. And only upon reading that will you kind of understand what I mean by that. But yeah, I certainly wasn't going to have guessed the ending to this one. It was, yeah, a little far-fetched, shall we say, but I mean, I actually did quite like it, and like I say, it does very well establish your sense of place by the isolated lake. Yeah, I thought it was okay. It was a decent thriller, but I expected more, considering I'd heard so much about Riley Sager being, like, you know, one of the kind of most popular authors in the genre up and coming. Black Lake Manor, again, I did not see where this was going, but that was flagged up a little bit more with this one because it's just a go with the flow, bizarre whodunit, absolutely bonkers. Like I say, wasn't quite kind of Stuart Turton level, but I would definitely give another one of Guy Morpus's a go. Of the two of them, Black Lake Manor wins. I think I gave this one 3 stars, this one 4 stars, although it's kind of more that I've rounded this one up and this one down just because, yeah, but of the two properties by the lakes, Guy Morpus has it. I would recommend these both to fans of the genre if you like a quick read, if you want something that you can just kind of snarf in a day or two. These are both kind of decent books, and I will be trying another Riley Sager, and I will be reading Guy Morpus's first one. So yeah, really enjoyable, and it was nice to have that escapism because obviously my autumn TBR list contained a lot of different genres, and the autumn time is nice for a thriller, especially if it's in a secluded house where there is mystery involved. That's the thrillers. A bit more poetic now, and I read this one pretty quickly too, was Ali Smith's Autumn. This is part of the seasonal quartet. Autumn is the first one, and I was told to expect it to be quite Brexity. I always find with Ali Smith, there were moments of absolute genius, there were scenes that were just bang on, social commentary, like, fantastic. There were moments of poetic writing, but overall there was a lot of there was a bit too much mucking around. if that's the way of putting it. The writing is poetic but can be a little bit pretentious, and if you're a fan of literary fiction and you like your poetry and you don't mind if it just kind of swims off into stream of consciousness. If you're a fan of Ali Smith, you'll love it. And again, I have a lot of respect for her writing, but I can never quite, once I finish them, because they don't quite form a kind of cohesive whole for me, I can never quite give them the kind of 5-star ratings that some of the writing surely deserves. Autumn is about 2 characters, a young girl and an older man. The man is on his deathbed, and it's basically about their friendship. She does branch off into almost kind of journalistic writing sometimes. If you like things to be experimental, you'll love it. If you like things to hang together and to kind of form a cohesive whole, again, I plan on reading the rest of the quartet, but for me it was good, but it wouldn't be one that I'd kind of be like, yes, you have to read this one immediately. I'm not sure I completely buy the relationship between the 2 central characters. Sometimes it does seem a little bit contrived, but let's see what winter has in store. Finally, an excellent book, and somebody that I met earlier on in the month. I went all the way down to London. I set off in the morning. I got in the car, and it took me 6 hours to get down there, and I missed the talk, and I was absolutely gutted. I was supposed to be seeing John Gwynne, Tasha Suri and James Logan talking about fantasy writing, and I did make it just in time to meet them, and they were all absolutely wonderful. But I was absolutely gutted that I missed the talk. The book that I read was Shadow of the Gods, and this is number 1 in the Bloodsworn trilogy. So Fury of the Gods has just come out, the 3rd one. I didn't quite make it to the end of, I haven't quite started, in fact, Hunger of the Gods, which is the 2nd one. But the first one, which is here, Shadow of the Gods, was an absolutely fantastic read. This is a Viking-style fantasy novel, and it is brutal. If you found things like Game of Thrones a little bit too gory, give this one a miss, because it really does show how brutal times were back then. I loved it. The characters were brilliant. There were some great female characters, great male characters, and it felt like being in Skyrim. In fact, I just bought a little Lego Viking village because I was in the mood after reading it. But like I say, it is brutal, and expect a lot of gore. If you're one of those people who finds it really irritating in fantasy writing when people are basically surviving many killing blows, they're in a fight and they're literally kind of, you know, still fighting on with an axe stuck in their head. If you find that annoying, then John Gwynne doesn't go in for that. If you have been bludgeoned, then you're probably not getting up again. A little bit more realistic. But like I say, it gave me Skyrim vibes big time. I asked John Gwynne if he'd ever played Skyrim. He has not, but apparently his sons have. I've heard great things about John Gwynne's other books as well. This was my first kind of foray into his writing, but he is becoming known as one of the giants of the genre, and he's well known for his excellent quality of writing and plot, and he was absolutely lovely, so definitely check out his work. I did actually sneak in a final book on the final day. This was Arkham Asylum. Now, the reason why I bought this in the first place was because it is well known to be one of the best graphic novels of all time. At least that's what I've been told. That's what is on several lists. And when something gets into the lists like that, I'm curious. But I'd flicked through, obviously, when I was in the shop, and I'd seen certain panels from it. Obviously, you can see the cover. And I had a pretty good impression going into this book that it wasn't going to be my sort of thing. I really dislike a lot of the Batman comics. I know that Batman is from DC Comics and he's a superhero, but I played the video games and I adored them. Everything about the world, the character, the combat, they were marvellous. The Rocksteady trilogy, the Arkham trilogy, are top tier video games and I adore them, and I loved Batman, and very much kind of, you know, a lot of a lot of my usernames kind of got derived from there because I loved it so much. But when it actually comes to reading the comics, it actually made me question, do I actually like Batman? I like the Adam West Batman, that kind of, you know, holy mashed potatoes kind of Batman. I love that. Very good fun. Lego Batman, similarly charming. Batman's gruff, Batman's, you know, very entertaining. But what I don't like is horrible, gritty Batman. Batman Year One, this one, by this person, because I can't remember exactly who wrote it. I was told that was a good starting point. I read that way back when, and I found it a little bit basic. It wasn't as good as everyone said it was. Then I was told, oh no, he really comes into his own in The Dark Knight Returns. And this is by Frank Miller, I believe. I absolutely hated this. I didn't go for the art style, and the Batman was the kind of, you know, kind of spitting, killing, I can't remember if he did any killing actually, but he was, like, the character wasn't the Batman that I know and love. Far too mean. This one, there wasn't really much Batman at all. It was basically Batman walking through a haunted house and various horrible things being presented. Like one of those like mazes that you have people jumping out at you on Halloween that I would never ever go into. It was a bit like that. The artwork was actually marvellously coherent. If you really like horror and you just want a short dreamlike experience through the Batman universe, then this could be for you. It was very horrible. If you actually enjoy the works of Hieronymus Bosch rather than just appreciating them, then you know, this might be your sort of thing. The artwork was very difficult, very migraine inducing in its presentation, but there was a certain kind of fluidity to it where you go from panel to panel and it just takes you deep into this horrible nightmare. So I gave it 3 stars because just because something isn't for me doesn't mean it's not any good, but it wasn't enough to win me over. I didn't feel like there was enough plot, and I didn't feel like there was enough going on, and actually the 25th anniversary version that I had actually finished halfway through the book, and then the rest of it was just bonus content. So I didn't, when you get to the end of the book and you're like, oh, I didn't even realise that was the book. It doesn't, you know, it was okay, but I hated it. The books I've got ongoing at the moment, I'm still reading Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. I always get it the wrong way around. Norrell and Strange, still reading that. It's still fantastic. That was another good one to read in the Gladstones environment. Almost a bit dark academia there, literary fantasy. My friends at Hardy's Books have done a read-along and they've done videos along the way. I'm late to the party because I haven't finished it yet, but if you want to check out their channel, I'll leave it in the in the bio so that you know who to read along with if you want to do so yourself. The Vaster Wilds, which is about a girl escaping from a settlement and running off into the wilderness. It's hard to tell exactly when it is, 1600s I'd guess, late 1600s, hard to tell. But yeah, I was reading that last night. Salagut Dream department store, started that and then didn't really I've just been in and out. Again, it's a perfectly pleasant book, it's just I'm just a bit slumpy at the moment, it's just not all coming together. Reading some non-fiction as well. We've got Arguing for a Better World. I've lost track. Oh, a book called Tom Lake, which to be fair I could have probably put in with the Lake books. No, that's a completely different kettle of fish. I am still kind of vaguely sticking to the autumn TBR, but I'll be honest, I've gone a bit off-piste. I am such a mood reader, and sometimes you just see a book sitting there and you just have to grab it and you have to give it a go, and then you realise that you're actually reading about 10 books at once. Anywho, that was my October. It was hectic. Hopefully November will be a little smoother. Let me know what you're all reading. If you think that I should be prioritising any book in particular in the coming months, let me know. See you soon for more bookish content.